His mouth was on hers before she could remember why this was dangerous. Amara gasped against his lips, her back pressed against the storage room door, rain hammering the tin roof like a warning she couldn't hear over the thunder of her own pulse. His hand trembled at her jaw, cupping her face like she was something fragile he'd been too rough with his whole life and was only now learning to hold gently. The kiss tasted like black tea and desperation, and 4 weeks of pretending they were just friendly. "We can't," she breathed, but her fingers were already twisted in his shirt. "I know." He kissed her again, deeper this time, swallowing her protests. Then he pulled back just enough to whisper against her mouth, his forehead pressed to hers, both of them trembling. "Tell me to stop, Amara." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. Sirens wailed closer, too close, then pounding on the back door, urgent and heavy. "Amara, open up!" They sprang apart, both breathing hard. His eyes were dark with want and something that looked like fear. Her lips were swollen, her carefully wrapped headscarf coming loose, and she could still feel the ghost of his touch burning through her blouse. "I have to." She gestured helplessly toward the door. "I know." But he caught her wrist, gently, urgently. "Amara, after this, we need to talk about what they'll do if—" "I know what you are," she said, voice cracking. "That's what scares me." She fled to unlock the door, but her mind was already spinning backward, trying to understand how she'd gone from swearing off dangerous men to kissing a 8-year-old Korean fixer in her storage room like the world wasn't burning down around them. It had started 4 weeks ago, not with the kiss, with the rain. 4 weeks earlier. The downpour had turned Lagos Marina into a shimmering, treacherous maze, and Amara Okoye was already running behind when she unlocked Chapter and Chai at 6:47 a.m. The book bar was her sanctuary, had been for 8 years. But today it felt like a target. Yellow notices had started appearing 2 weeks ago. Photocopied sheets taped to lampposts, vague language about survey and assessment for commercial revitalization. The kind of bureaucratic poetry that always preceded erasure. She was restocking the poetry shelf. Soyinka, Edici, Angelou, when the door flew open with such force the bell cracked against the frame. A man stumbled in, completely soaked, scanning the room with the trained sweep of someone who always clocked exits first. Water streamed from his black hair, his dark coat plastered to his lean frame, and his eyes sharp, exhausted landed on her for just a heartbeat before moving on. "Black tea," he said, accent soft, Korean. "Hot, please." Amara had owned a bar long enough to recognize trouble when it walked in dripping, but she also recognized exhaustion, fear poorly hidden. "Sit," she said. "I'll bring it." He chose the corner table, back to the wall, hands visible. He didn't touch the tea when she set it down. "You're not here for tea," she observed quietly. His eyes flicked to the window. "No." Outside, 2 men in unmarked jackets were moving down the block, stapling new notices to every door. Bigger ones, official-looking. The stranger's jaw tightened. "You own this place?" 8 years. "Then you need to see this." He stood abruptly, and for a moment she thought he'd leave. Instead, he moved to the window, watching the men with an intensity that made her pulse jump. "If they move on this," he said quietly, almost to himself, "your whole block goes dark." "What are you talking about?" He turned, really looked at her. "Those men don't work for the city, and those notices aren't surveys." Amara's breath caught. Then who? But he was already moving toward the door. She should have let him go. Should have stayed behind her counter, called someone official, done anything except follow a beautiful stranger into the rain. She followed. By the time she reached the sidewalk, he was 3 storefronts down, positioning himself between the men and Mama Ijioma's fruit stand. His voice carried calm and cold. "You're going to walk away now." The taller man smirked. "This is legal business, friend. Move along. It's illegal harassment on private commercial property. And I'm not your friend." The stranger didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Something in his stillness made the threat clear. Amara found herself stepping forward, heart hammering. "He's right. Unless you have a court order, you're trespassing." Both men turned. The shorter one's smile was ugly. "Lady, stay out of her block, her rules." The stranger's voice dropped another degree. "Leave." For a long moment no one moved. Rain drummed the pavement. Then the shorter man spat on the ground and jerked his head. They walked. Amara stood there, breathless, soaked, staring at the man who'd just gambled his safety for hers. "Thank you," she managed. He looked at her the way someone looks at a mistake they're about to make anyway. You're welcome. Then he pulled a napkin from his pocket, scribbled something, and pressed it into her hand. You'll need friends. I can be one. Before she could answer, he turned and vanished into the rain. Amara unfolded the napkin, smudging ink in the wet. Minjae. 080XXXX. She looked up. He was gone. She walked back to Chapter and Chai, legs shaking, and unfolded one of the notices the men had left behind. The header made her stomach drop. Compulsory survey notice. Marina Heritage Row. Commercial redevelopment assessment. 90 days. Her neon open sign flickered once, then went dark. Amara called an electrician. The sign was fine. The problem, he said, was the breaker box outside. Someone had tampered with it. Deliberately. The next morning, Minjae walked in at 6:52 a.m. Ordered black tea, he still didn't drink, and stayed until closing. He didn't explain. She didn't ask. But when she went to lock the back door at 9 p.m., she found it already secure, and the lock that had stuck for 3 months now turned smoothly. On the counter, a napkin. Locks should work when you need them. It became a routine. He arrived early, claimed the corner table, worked on a laptop he angled away from windows. She brought him tea. He left notes in the margins of books he pulled from her shelves, then returned them carefully to the wrong spot so she'd have to find them. Next to Achebe, you shelve by author. I'd shelve by how they make you feel. Next to Neruda, does anyone order poetry with their coffee, or just you? She started replying. In the same margins, in the same books. People order what they think they need. I give them what they don't know they're missing. One morning she found him repairing her rain-warped storage door with a bent hairpin and the kind of practiced efficiency that came from a life she didn't want to imagine. His hands were careful. Too careful. Like he'd broken things before and was trying to learn a different language. Where did you learn that? She asked. Everywhere I shouldn't have been. He didn't look up. But I'm good at fixing what's broken. And if it's too broken to fix? He met her eyes then. Then you protect what's left. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday. Amara's phone lit up with a tag from @Marina Heritage Now. Breaking. Provisional cultural protection filed for Marina Heritage Row. Developer permits on hold pending review. Community wins for now. Relief flooded her so hard she had to sit down. Minjae was beside her instantly. What happened? She showed him the screen, laughing, almost crying. We have time. They can't tear it down, not yet. Something flickered across his face. Not relief, guilt. But before she could ask, the door opened. A man in an expensive agbada stepped in, smiling the way predators smile before they bite. Miss Okoye, I'm with Helix Blue Development. May I have a moment? Amara's stomach turned. I'm busy. This will only take a minute. He slid a folder across the bar. Triple your current lease value. Cash. Today. All you have to do is sign and vacate within 30 days. Her hand stilled. That's generous. We think so. And if I don't sign? His smile thinned. Then you wait for the courts. Legal fees, delays, uncertainty. Why suffer when you could walk away comfortable? Minjae's chair scraped. He stood slowly, positioning himself between them. She said she's busy. The man's eyes narrowed. And you are? Leaving? Amara cut in, voice shaking but firm. Both of you. I'm not signing. I'm not selling. And I'm not abandoning my block because you'd rather bulldoze than wait. The developer's smile died. You're making a mistake. It's mine to make. Get out. He left. But the folder stayed on the counter like a curse. When the door closed, Amara's legs gave out. Minjae caught her, guided her to a chair, then locked the door and flipped the sign to closed. I need to tell you something, he said quietly, and you're going to want me to leave. Her pulse spiked. Then tell me. He sat across from her, hands flat on the table like he was surrendering a weapon. I work for them, the syndicate behind Helix Blue. I'm a fixer. I move money, clean records, make problems disappear. His voice cracked. I came here 4 weeks ago to scout this block, to confirm which properties would resist, to make a list. The air left her lungs. You were on it. Chapter and Chai was number 3. He looked at her, eyes raw. And then I met you, and I couldn't. He stopped, jaw tight. I sent a digital ledger to a journalist friend. Shell companies, routing numbers, names. I sent it the day before I walked into your bar, before I knew your name. Because I was tired, Amara. Tired of breaking things for men who don't care what they destroy. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm not going to lie to you. He leaned forward, voice dropping. And because they're going to come for me, when they find out. And if you're near me when they do. She kissed him. She didn't plan it, didn't think. She just moved. Across the table, hands in his hair, mouth on his, swallowing his confession and his fear and the 4 weeks of pretending they were just strangers trading notes in margins. He froze, then his hands came up, trembling, cradling her face. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against her lips. She didn't. The kiss was slow, aching, a question and an answer tangled together. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, sirens wailed in the distance, ambulance or police, she couldn't tell. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Me too." He pressed his forehead to hers. "But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe with anyone else." "I won't lie to you," he said again, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. "Not ever." Outside, a shadow passed the window. Tall, watching. The bell above the door chimed softly. No one came in. Min-jae was at the window in 2 strides, scanning the empty street. "Stay here. Don't..." But he was already outside, moving like smoke through rain. Amara watched from the door, heart hammering, as he checked the alley, the dock entrance, the shadows between shipping containers. When he returned, his face was carved from stone. Whoever it was is gone. Or never there. She tried. They were there. He locked the door behind him. "We need to be careful." They were careful for 9 days, and then the world ended. The notice arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under her door in an official government envelope. Amara opened it with shaking hands while Min-jae made tea neither of them would drink. Compulsory acquisition notice, Marina Heritage Row, 60 days to vacate. Council vote final. "They steamrolled the protection," she whispered. "How?" "Money." Min-jae's voice was flat. "Enough council members in enough pockets." He pulled out his phone, dialed. "Sani, we need that injunction now." He stopped, listened. His face went white. "You're sure?" He hung up, stood there, phone still in his hand, looking like he'd been shot. "What?" "Inspector Sani's been feeding everything back to them. Names, dates, the ledger." His voice cracked. "Our safe path is poisoned. We have no one inside." Amara sank into a chair. "The journalist hasn't returned my calls in 3 days." He sat heavily across from her. "I think they got to her too. Or scared her enough." The door chimed. The developer rep stepped in, smiling that predator smile. "Miss Okoye, I'm disappointed. I thought we had an understanding. Get out. This is your last chance. The offer expires tonight. Tomorrow, the bulldozers get their permits." He slid a new folder across the bar, thicker this time. 4 times your lease value. And a guarantee nobody asks where you've been getting your advice. Her blood iced. "Are you threatening him?" "I'm offering clarity. Sign, and your friend stays a ghost. Refuse, and we make sure everyone knows exactly who Park Min-jae works for and what he's done." Min-jae stood slowly. "Leave. Now. 60 days, Miss Okoye. Count them carefully." He walked out, leaving the folder like a tombstone. When the door closed, Amara turned on Min-jae. All her fear came out as fury. "They know. They know everything because of you. Amara, you brought this to my door. You put me on a list. And now they're going to take everything because I was stupid enough to..." She stopped, choking on the words. "To what?" His voice was quiet, wrecked. "To trust me?" This was temporary. The words tasted like poison. "You said it yourself, you break things. That's what you do." He flinched like she'd struck him. For a long moment he just stood there, breathing hard. Then he nodded once. "You're right." He pulled his coat from the back of the chair, started putting his laptop away, moving with mechanical precision, like he'd packed for quick exits his whole life. "Min-jae, you deserve better than temporary." He stopped at the poetry shelf, pulled down a worn copy of Rumi, and left it on the counter. "I hope you find it." Then he walked out into the rain. Amara stood frozen, staring at the book. She opened it with shaking hands, one line underlined in pencil. "Home is the person who stays." She closed the bar early, sat in the dark, let herself cry for the first time in 8 years. At 11 p.m., Orange light flickered across her window. She looked up. The sky over the shipping district glowed, wrong too bright, too red. Sirens screamed to life, racing toward the docks. Her phone buzzed. Mama Ijeoma. Fire at the bedsits. Bad one. Amara's heart stopped. Minjae's flat was 3 blocks into the shipping district, above the Korean grocery. She was running before she decided to, breath clouding in cool, damp air, legs burning, rain soaking through her blouse. She reached the address. Smoke poured from a second-floor window. Firefighters shouting. A door hung open, charred at the edges. She pushed past. The cordon. Someone lives there. Ma'am, step back. But she could see inside. The mattress charred to springs, walls blackened, papers curling into ash. A laptop melted on a table. No Minjae. Was anyone inside? She screamed. A firefighter turned, face grim. We're still searching. Amara's knees hit wet pavement. Smoke burned her throat, and all she could think was, I told him he was temporary. I told him to leave, and now he's gone. Ma'am, you can't be here. A firefighter gripped her shoulder gently. We need to clear the scene. He lives here, Park Min-jae. Korean man, late 20s. No one was inside when we arrived. The firefighter's voice softened, but the fire was deliberate. Accelerant pattern. You should file a report. Amara nodded numbly, not hearing. She stood on shaking legs, staring at the charred doorway. The firefighters were moving out, rolling hoses, clearing equipment. One called over his shoulder. Check for valuables if you're next of kin. We're releasing the scene in 10. She wasn't next of kin, wasn't anything, but she climbed the stairs anyway. The room was ruin, furniture skeletal, walls black, the smell of burned plastic and accelerant choking. She picked through debris with her scarf wrapped over her mouth, not knowing what she was looking for, just needing to find something, anything that said he'd existed here, that this wasn't just... Her foot hit something solid under the collapsed desk, a small fireproof tin, the kind people kept documents in. She knelt, pried it open with shaking hands. Inside, a thumb drive labeled Ledger, Alton Careful Hangle, a tiny key on a silver chain, and letters. 3 of them, unsealed, addressed to her in handwriting she recognized from margin notes. She opened the first with trembling fingers. Amara, if you're reading this, I'm either gone or I finally found the courage to stay. I'm betting on gone. Men like me don't get second chances, but you made me want to try. The key opens a safe deposit box at Marina Union Bank, box 447. Inside is everything you need to fight them. Lease guarantees, backup ledgers, proof of acquisition fraud, and one more thing I don't have the courage to give you in person. M. The second letter was shorter. I didn't know home was a person until I met you. The third was a single line. I'm sorry I couldn't be temporary enough to keep you safe, or permanent enough to stay. Amara pressed the letters to her chest and wept. When she could breathe again, she pocketed the tin and walked to the docks. Mama Ijeoma was there, setting up early, her stall lit by a single bulb. Others were gathering vendors, shop owners, the people who made the marina more than real estate. They burned him out, Amara said. Her voice sounded strange, hollow. They'll burn us all if we let them. Mama Ijeoma's face hardened. Then we don't let them. By phone light and lamplight, Amara read the letters aloud, showed them the drive, told them what Min-jae had, risked, what he'd lost. One by one, they started talking. Testimonies, photos of notices, bribes, threats. Someone had recorded the developer's men slashing tires. Another had screenshots of shell company registrations. We go live, said Tunde, who ran the bookseller stall next to hers. Dawn. Tag everyone, BBC, Al Jazeera, diaspora channels, activist networks. Make it too loud to bury. Amara nodded. We'll need Amara. She turned. Min-jae stood at the edge of the dock, smoke-stained, hollow-eyed, shaking, alive. She crossed to him in 5 strides and hit his chest with both fists. You, I know. He caught her hands, pulled her against him. I'm sorry. They came for me. I had to disappear until I knew. His voice broke. I'm done running. You left. You told me to. He cupped her face with soot-stained hands. And you were right. I bring fire. But Amara, his eyes were bright, fierce. I'm not leaving you in it. They'll kill you. They offered me a promotion, underboss. Said if I took the seat and made you go quiet, they'd clear my record. His smile was broken. I told them no. Min-jae. He pulled the chain from his pocket, the one from the tin, and placed it in her palm. Box 447. Everything I have is yours. Guarantees, backups, and... He stopped. One silver band. For someday, if you'll let me prove I can stay. She kissed him. Hard, desperate, tasting smoke and salt and 4 weeks of trying not to love him. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. What's the plan? We expose them. Live. At dawn. Then we'd better move. By 5 a.m., they had a plan. Live stream. At 6:15 peak global engagement. The journalist, Adeyeze, finally called back. I'm in. I'll go live on our platform simultaneous. We'll force the editor's hands. The vendors gathered as the sky went gray-pink. Amara's phone was mounted, aimed at the crowd. Her finger hovered over Go Live. Across the street, a black SUV idled. Headlights on. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text. We know. Don't. Mama Ijeoma put a hand on her shoulder. Do it anyway. Amara looked at Min-jae. He nodded once. She pressed the button. The screen flashed. Live. Good morning. My name is Amara Okoye, and for 8 years I've run a book bar on Marina Heritage Row. 4 weeks ago, men started threatening my home. This is why. The view count climbed. 10, 50, 300. Mama Ijeoma stepped into frame. They offered me money to stay silent. When I refused, they slashed my tires. Twice. Tunde held up his phone. Screenshots. Shell companies. Helix Blue Development is a front for a smuggling syndicate laundering money through forced acquisitions. Min-jae's hands were steady as he held up the drive. I worked for them, fixed their problems, cleaned their records. This drive contains routing numbers, account details, and names. All of it. The count hit 2,000. Adaya's voice crackled through speakerphone. Broadcast live on GNN. We're seeing corroborating documents now. At least 6 council members received undisclosed payments in the last 90 days. The developer's corporate registry was created 4 months ago. The comment section exploded. Tags multiplied. Number Marina Heritage Row. Number Lagos Land Grab. BBC Africa. Al Jazeera. Diaspora Networks. At 6:47 a.m., Helix Blue's website went dark. At 7:03, the first bank freeze notices began trending. By 8 a.m., the black SUV was gone. At 10 a.m., a pro bono legal collective filed an emergency injunction. By noon, the court granted a stay on all demolition permits pending criminal investigation. Inspector Sani was suspended. 3 council members resigned. City Hall called an emergency session for the following week. They'd won. Amara stood on the dock, numb with disbelief, as vendors hugged and wept and prayed. Min-jae's hand found hers, squeezed gently. Come with me, he said quietly. They walked to Marina Union Bank. Box 447 was small, plain. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside, notarized lease guarantees, 10 years prepaid, backup drives, labeled and dated, legal documents naming Chapter and Chai as a cultural heritage anchor, and a small velvet pouch. He placed it in her palm. Practical first, he whispered. She opened it. A simple silver band, no stone, just a single inscription inside, home. It's not a proposal, he said quickly. Not yet. It's a promise. That I choose you. Every day. That I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can stay. She slid the keychain around her neck, the safe key glinting against her collarbone. Practical first, she echoed, voice breaking. Forever next. Forever next. He agreed. He kissed her as the sun broke over the marina, soft and certain and clean. 3 weeks later, Chapter and Chai reopened. The Heritage Board formalized protections. Leases were restructured with tenant protections. Min-jae co-signed as transparent guarantor for neighborhood security improvements. His past now public record. His future built on accountability. Reopening night was standing room only. Readings, steam rising from chai, laughter layered over the clink of cups. Rain tapped the awning like applause. Min-jae stood behind the bar beside her, hand warm over hers at the register. Home, he murmured. Home, she agreed. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Voice note. Unknown number. She almost didn't open it. Almost let the moment stay perfect. But something cold crawled up her spine. She pressed play. Amara. It's Kay. The voice was smooth, familiar, poison. I see you've been busy. We need to talk about what you did to us. to me. I'm in Lagos. Let's catch up. For old time's sake. Her hand stilled. The key at her throat caught lamplight, glinting. Kelechi. The ex who'd chosen a developer's money over her 3 years ago. The ex who'd laughed when she'd called him afterward, begging him to tell her why. The ex who was now tied to Helix Blue's PR recovery team, according to the leaked documents. Minjae's hand covered hers. Who is it? She looked up at him, this man who'd burned his whole life down to choose her. The past, she whispered. Outside, headlights flashed. A car idling, waiting. The bell above the door chimed softly. No one came in. If this story reminded you that love is a choice, that redemption is possible, and that community is power, subscribe, because Amara and Minjae's fight is just beginning.